What's up, everyone? Welcome to another one of our NBA DFS DraftKings Picks videos. I am your host, Bales, for a 10-game Friday slate. Obviously, this will be for October 22nd, 2021. We had a smaller 3-game slate last night. We're now back to big action, and I believe all of next week we have 5+ games for every slate, so that'll be nice. I am going to switch up this video slightly. Instead of overloading all of our viewers with a ton of plays, because there are plenty of viable options, a lot of players are mispriced. There's still a few guys that tend to be rookies, but not all rookies, that are mispriced and way too cheap, again, which DraftKings really hasn't fixed at this point. But instead of overloading you guys with a ton of plays, I'm just going to outline some of my favorites at each position, and instead I will let you guys discuss with me. Drop any plays that you have questions about, any guys that you like, anything of the sort. If you're questioning whether you should use someone, if you want to know if they are cash game playable, GPP options, if you just want to let me know that you like them, drop that in the comments below. I will answer all throughout the day and as quickly as possible. As always, I guess, as well. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It's important to turn on the notifications because we do have Ben going live when there are bigger slates. I believe 5 games or more. He'll probably go live about an hour before lock, but that's not guaranteed. So the timing could be off by a few minutes or maybe even up to 30 minutes, depending on when he's available. So I would turn on the notifications to make sure that you get those and can get in to ask any questions. Those will be a live stream where he's answering your questions in real time, but these are pre-recorded the night before. As always, you can go to dfskarma.com to find all of our free content. We have plenty of it on top of premium content, premium projections. We have a premium Discord and a free Discord. If you want to get in our free Discord, just go to the description below. You'll find the link there. Also, that is where you can find a link to our premium packages, which have been on fire relatively, or not relatively, I guess they've been on fire early this season. It's not really relative to anything, but they've been on fire early this season. Ben has been killing it specifically with our optimal lineup. So I would highly recommend checking that out as well. We also have our sister site, Bet Karma, if you're into sports betting, which has just phenomenal information all across the site. But I guess now is the time for us to go over some picks. We will go position by position. It's a really nice slate with 10 games, a lot going on, a few really good matchups. Starting at point guard, there are a few plays at the top that I do think you can use. Donovan Mitchell kind of sticks out. James Harden, anytime he's under 10K, 100% viable option, especially with Kyrie Irving not playing. So James Harden and Donovan Mitchell up top are fine. De'Aaron Fox, I'm never going to tell you no. LaMelo Ball looked elite in his first game, but this could be a little bit, I guess not that much tougher of a matchup. So I'm likely dropping down to 7,500, though, with Malcolm Brogdon. He gets a matchup against Washington, so it's going to be faster paced. He played 40 minutes, I believe, in their first game. He saw a ton of touches, like just a ridiculous amount of touches. He also saw a ton of drives, and I believe he had a league-high 22 potential assists. So a lot going on for Malcolm Brogdon, especially just with the fact that he played 40 minutes after essentially entering the game questionable. We knew a couple hours before that he was going to play, but he was questionable throughout the day. So that was pretty big for him to come in and play 40 minutes in that situation. If you keep going down a bit, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is obviously going to be the focal point for Oklahoma City. He's at 6,700. Gets a really good matchup against Houston. They're not a great team defensively. They're rebuilding. We just saw Minnesota put up a ton of points on them. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander makes a really, really good option. And it's a bit shocking that he's under 7K at this point. I feel like it's just kind of an odd price tag. But that's someone that I'm willing to take a shot on. RJ Barrett, as I mentioned on the podcast for Wednesday, his multiple position eligibility for some reason is a point guard, small forward. So I think that anytime you can play him at point is a reasonable option, or small forward as well. But under 6K, he's another guy that I'm willing to take a shot on. I'm not overly scared of the Orlando Magic defense. And then there's just a few guys that are a bit too cheap at point guard. Jalen Suggs, he played 30 minutes, I believe, for the Magic in their first game. Tyrese Maxey has seen a bigger role with Ben Simmons out, and that's going to be the case again tonight. Jalen Green didn't really see his price jump up, and he's playing 30-plus minutes for Houston on top of essentially going for Rookie of the Year. And then if you want kind of a weirder pick down near minimum price, Davion Mitchell played relatively large minutes for the Sacramento Kings. Nothing ridiculous, and he's more of a defensive player, especially early in his career. But he does have the ability to shoot, and if you're telling me that he's going to get 25 minutes and be roughly the minimum price, I don't see a reason why you can't take a shot on that, especially in tournaments. Obviously, I probably don't go there in cash games, but in GPPs, it does make quite a bit of sense. Moving to shooting guard, Zach LaVine sticks out. It feels like it's only a matter of time before he at least attempts to make his case for MVP. And I know a lot of people probably say that, he's done it last year. A lot of people were talking about him potentially being a dark horse for MVP. But this season just kind of feels like he's really going to take his game to the next level. Gets a solid matchup against the New Orleans Pelicans, who just are a team that I'm not overly scared of. So I do like him quite a bit. I'm 50-50 at this point on Chris Duarte. He's one of the rookies that absolutely dominated opening night. He looked elite for Indiana. He played a ton of minutes. I would assume that he plays those again because Jeremy Lamb played in that game, so there's not really that much that's going to change. He's 6,000 now, though, gets a plus matchup against Washington. And you kind of are, always going back and forth on whether you want to spend that kind of money for a rookie. He's going to have plenty of ups and downs. It's only his second game, but he looked good in preseason. He looks good now. So that's probably something that I'm willing to take a shot on. I do think that 6,000 is expensive. I think that it could probably keep his ownership down quite a bit, but I also believe that you can take your shot there. And I would even say at this point he's cash viable. That could change throughout the day depending on everything that's going on in the league, injuries, stuff like that. But at this point, just a really good play. And then if you just want to look at players that are a bit too cheap, you have Devin Vassell and Lonnie Walker. Both performed well in the first game for the Spurs. Both are young players that are expected to continue to take steps forward, and they both come with extremely low price tags. Someone that I got screwed by on the first big night, I opted to play Trey Murphy instead of Desmond Bane. Terrible move. It cost me cashing, but Murphy is coming off of a really good preseason. He only played, I believe, 18 minutes in his first game. The problem was he looked terrible. So I would assume that if he is playing, playing better at that point in the game, they probably give him more minutes. So I could see him getting 25 plus minutes, and he is only a couple hundred higher than the minimum price. So 100 higher than the minimum price. So plenty of upside in the situation. It's just there's hard to find anyone else that's going to come with more or less more risk than Trey Murphy. So again, you're kind of being put in a really weird spot, but I do think that he's a little bit too cheap, specifically on this kind of a slate. At small forward, I don't really have a problem at the top of this. If you want to play LeBron James, Kevin Durant, feel free. Jason Tatum didn't perform overly well. He looked good in a double overtime loss, but he wasn't really the focal point of the offense. We saw Evan Fournier go nuts. We saw Jaylen Brown go nuts. And at some point in time, Tatum's going to really take over for the team. So I do believe at 8,800, Jason Tatum is completely fine here. If you want to pay 83 for Jaylen Brown, I also have no problems with that. He looked great in his first game, and that was while using an inhaler on the sideline. So, just kind of a bit crazy of how good he played in that game with what was going on. But I do think that he's a solid option. Also, I mean, on the other end of that particular game, now in New York, Evan Fournier, 6,500. He looked great, 32 points. I believe he broke the record for most points ever in a Knicks debut. So Evan Fournier looked really good. I have no problems with him at 6,500, but that's actually getting to be a bit up in his price range. At 6,200, I would prefer OG Anunoby, who, I touted quite a bit on the podcast for Wednesday. I still think he was a great play. He shot 3 of 17, 2 of 9 from deep. He had 11 points, 10 rebounds. He had some steals, a block, and an assist. When his shot's falling, he's going to come with tremendous upside, and he's only 6,200. We kind of saw the Knicks tear apart Boston's defense, so I don't have too many concerns here with what type of player Anunoby is, but he just gets a really good matchup, and he's clearly going to be a focal point of the offense, at least as long as Pascal Siakam's out, which is going to be tonight as well. So I do think that he's a really good option. And then you have a few other players. It's kind of odd. You have some of the guys that I talked about at shooting guard. Lauri Markkanen is still only 5,200. It seems as if the Cavs do indeed want to get Markkanen around 30 minutes along with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. So I don't really have a problem at this point. He played 31 minutes in their opening game. I assumed that one of those three was going to see less time because I didn't really think that Markkanen was going to play too much small forward, but it turns out he did. He didn't shoot well, but he still almost double-doubled. He can add assists to his game as well. So I do think that Markkanen at 5,200 is reasonable. My only real issue is that I still am a bit concerned as to whether they're going to continue to give him, the 30-plus minutes or what's going to happen, because I'm guessing after paying Jarrett Allen, he's not going to take a cut in minutes, and after drafting Evan Mobley with one of your top picks, I would assume that he's also not going to take the cut in minutes. So it just is whether you trust that they're going to keep giving Markkanen the 30-plus minutes. Other options at small forward, young players that, their price tags just haven't reached what they're doing. Obi Toppin, I believe he played 28 minutes for the Knicks. He actually looked really good in that game. The problem is, again, double overtime, and he still only got to 28 minutes, but he's really cheap, and he does come with a ton of upside. And then two rookies in Josh Giddey and Franz Wagner are both playing bigger minutes for their teams. I have no problems with the low price tags of either one of them. So 100% feel free to use either of those if you need a little bit of salary relief at small forward. Moving to power forward, again, you have a lot of the same plays, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Jason Tatum, all of them completely fine. The one guy that sticks out, though, is Domantas Sabonis. He looked absolutely elite in his first game. I feel like this is going to be a major season for him. He's going to make a case for one of the top players in the league. He's only 9,000, which it's kind of odd at this point because only 9,000 is so cheap. Like, he absolutely should be over 10,000, but at the same time, Kevin Durant and LeBron James are 93 and 91. So it's not like Sabonis is just this wildly mispriced player. It's just everyone at this point in the season is still a little bit too cheap. Or I guess I should say most players, not everyone, but most players are a little bit too cheap at the moment. So Sabonis, for that, I feel is a really, really good option. There's not too many guys that I like kind of in the mid-tier at the moment. I think you can make a case for Evan Mobley. He looked really good in his first game. Gets a solid matchup against Charlotte. But at the same time, he shot well in that game. He showed off his versatility. He did play almost 40 minutes, which is pretty crazy. And you're not going to get Evan Mobley as a safe option for the majority of the season, I believe. There's going to be plenty of ups and downs, as is the case with a lot of young players, but he's a big that probably isn't quite NBA ready yet. Obviously, he's going to get minutes. I think he's going to do extremely well this season, but in a couple of years, I feel like you guys are going to know what I mean by that as he puts on more muscle and kind of gets used to the way that they play in the NBA. If you're sitting in the mid-tier, though, he's probably the top option, I would say. The next one that I would drop down to would be someone like Kyle Kuzma. It looks like he's going to have a really big role for Washington. He was one of, I believe he might have been the only player for Washington to play over 30 minutes. Someone would have to fact check me on that. Uh, 13 shot attempts. He took 9 threes. He had 15 boards. So the upside's there. He's still under 6,000. It's just whether or not really Kyle Kuzma can get back to, the player that he was a couple years ago. And then as you keep going down, Keldon Johnson, I feel like this is going to be a really good season for him. He playing solid minutes for the Spurs. I don't think he quite hit the 30 mark in their first game, but he's only 5,000. And I do feel like there are going to be points in the season where he does play 30-plus minutes. So I'm not overly concerned necessarily. And then you have someone like Scotty Barnes, just a little bit too cheap. The other guy that's too cheap, and this depends on whether Al Horford plays or not, is Grant Williams. He played plenty of minutes, and he's only 4,100. So I don't have any issues if you want to go down to Williams, assuming, Al Horford is out once again for Boston. Moving to center, I'm going to have no issues if you want to pay up for Jokic. He's just a great option for as long as Jamal Murray's out. And, even when Murray comes back, you can always play him. But he's one of the top options. Rudy Gobert's coming off a really big game against the Thunder with 16 points, 21 boards. Only played 29 minutes, so there's plenty of room for improvement as well. And only one block shot, so Rudy Gobert has more upside than he flashed in the first game. He's under 8,000, and he gets another matchup against the Kings. As I just said, Gobert destroyed Oklahoma City's defense. I would assume that Christian Wood is another great option. I feel like he really didn't flash that much against Minnesota. I know he had a reasonable game, but there's so much more upside to him. And at 7,100, I feel like he's someone that you can really take a shot on. At 6,200, arguably my favorite play, Robert Williams, Time Lord, is way too cheap if Boston's going to give him a ton of minutes. He played, I believe, 45 in the double overtime win. If he's getting 30-plus on a nightly basis, just tremendous upside. I know a lot of people are concerned with fouls, but when you look at how he played last year, I think his fouls per 36, it was under 4. So I don't necessarily think you have to worry that much about fouls the way that you do in years past. I believe he's adjusted to the NBA game. He's not, the rookie just out there hacking whenever he possibly can. He does get a lot of blocks and steals, which, just reaching in and attempting those puts him sometimes in a bad position where he picks up fouls. So there is a little bit of risk, but at 6,200, it's just way too cheap. The same goes for another young player in Mo Bamba. He played 27 minutes, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. The big one is 4 blocks and then 1 steal. Only 27 minutes because he did struggle with fouls in the first game. But again, it looks like they want to give him minutes. Wendell Carter was kind of the odd man out, even though he started at power forward for Orlando. I would assume that Bamba keeps getting the big minutes, probably around 30 a night. And if that's the case, similar to Williams, his upside is just way too high for 6,000. So feel free to use him essentially in all leagues, but I do think that he comes with a little more risk than Robert Williams. And then just another option at center who's too cheap, right around the same price though, Jakob Poeltl. He's coming off a big game, double-double, 12 points, 13 rebounds, also had 7 assists, and he's flashed triple-double upside in previous years. He looks to be getting 30-plus minutes a game. Similar to the other guys, if that's the case, he should be priced at higher than 6,000. He doesn't come quite with as much upside as Williams and Bamba because they have so much steal and block potential. But he is a triple-double threat for under 6,000. I don't like the matchup against Denver. I think that Jokic has the ability to get him into foul trouble. But at the same time, I don't really have any issues if you want to use him just because he's way too cheap. That's probably where I want to sit at center, just for the fact that that's already a few options and 3 that are just grossly mispriced in my opinion. So I don't think this is a position where you need to drop all the way down to the bottom when you have guys like Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, just way too cheap. So I probably sit more in the mid tier. I guess if you want to spend up at center, you can as well. There's plenty of great options. But once again, I don't want to just absolutely overload you guys. I know I did give a fair amount of plays there, but that's not those are all of my favorite plays at the moment. That's not everyone that can be considered specifically in tournaments, even in cash games. So if there's anyone you're questioning, please drop them in the comments. I'll answer, give you my honest opinion on them. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications if you don't want to miss any of our videos. But that's what I have for you guys tonight. Good luck. 10 game slates are always really fun. Hopefully the luck goes in your favor. And I believe Sriracha or Tristan will be back with a video throughout the weekend, and then I'll be back on by next week. So good luck tonight, guys.